Hello and welcome back everybody to Sun Saw Gaming. So today we have the underrated beast of tier 8 and I'm just going to show you 3 matches in this tank and why this thing is such an absolute beast. Yes, I am talking about the VK101P. So without any further ado, let's go. So first of all, we're just going to go over the weak spots of this tank. Now, either side of the turret, you see these 2 little dots here. They are the weak points on the cheek of this turret. If you load a PCR, you're going to go through it. You also have this big, giant bottom plate. But, I mean, if you get your tank on sort of this angle, that plate becomes very hard to hit, except they can go through your track wheel. Now, I mean, you look on the side of this tank, you see that sort of line that sections it in half. Never shoot below that line, you're wasting your time. But if you're on this kind of an angle, you can put shells through that top half of the hull very easily until you angle a bit more like this. And then it can bounce shots. It can bounce shots all day long. Now, the other thing to note is this hatch on top. It is a giant hatch, it is a weak point, but if you keep your tanks on the right hand side of your tank, they're going to have a tougher time hitting it. Now, it can be very troll. Even though it is so huge, if you keep moving, they will bounce off of it from time to time just because they can't hit that center mass. And that's basically the easy weak points of this tank. There are more, but I'm not going to go into them right now. We're going to go into the first of the 3 matches and show you how this tank goes. Alright, so we are on Falls Creek. Take note of that Tiger 2 on my team, by the way. He and I are the reason my team win this match. And it goes to show you, if you play your heavy tanks right, if you play your position right, you can win, even in very, very bad situations like this one. And you're going to see exactly what I mean when we get engaged with the enemy. It happens very quick, and we are on the back foot basically the entire time. Now, he is driving a little bit drunk there. He's swerving from side to side. I think he wants to come across in front of me, so I stop. I'll let him go past. I'm going to be a team player. I am slow. I'm not going to cut him off. But he can't go to where he wants to, so he's going to come and he's going to side scrape off this building, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So instead of getting angry at him, I'm just going to side scrape off of him. We're going to line up this bush where tanks like to go. We're going to put a blind shot into it, and we're just going to pull forward. If you can see there, we're not actually blocking his tank's movement at all. He's able to reverse up, he's able to pull forward. There's heaps of space between us. Now, my whole team is here. I've already noticed that this is not a good situation. Their lights and mediums are going to come in behind us, and they're going to come very, very soon. And what do you know? There's the first one. Right there. And then the T-49 comes over the top. Now, this is where this tank does well. I just pop a nice HE round into him, because this tank has a gigantic gun. So, if you can, use that HE where you can. Now, I'm not going to worry about this T-49. He's going to make another mistake, and my teammate will finish him off. We're going to try and get rid of this cruel twist, the old bulldog. Now, I do have my allied medium with me, so I'm not too worried about this guy, to be honest. I do fire a shot, I miss him there, unfortunate, but I had to try for it. My medium does get a shell into him, and the bulldog just starts circling my ally. Now, you'll notice I still have my HE loaded. This is a light tank that I'm up against, and I'm just going to absolutely wreck him if I get him with an HE shell. Unfortunately, I hit his gun mantle as he pulls down off the edge there. Go for the ram, but my teammate does pick up the kill. Now, we're already 2 TDs and a heavy down, and the enemy is getting very aggressive. There goes another one of our tanks, light tank, absolutely wrecked. Now, you see this Tiger, he's getting himself out of there. Smart move, back off. The enemy team's healthy, the enemy team is pushing forward and advancing, and there's not much he can do alone up there. So he is pulling back, which is smart. It allows me to get a shot into this IS-3, and our medium just carked it. So it's now a 2 versus 5. Not good odds, not good odds, but even in a giant tank like this beast of a VK100, and that there was a ghost shell. Bloody ghost shells, I hate them. Anyway, it's 2 versus 4 now. My teammate did manage to clear off the IS-3 that was there. We've got a 1-shot Panther, we've got a 1-shot Borsig, we've got 2 very healthy heavies, one of them being the Smasher. And you can see, I've just bounced a shot off the top cupola of this tank. And I'm using this hill, staying as low as I can, to try and minimize the chance of me getting hit through there. And these guys, they're just going to push on this tiger. Now, I'm not going to worry about that tiger right there. That tiger, he's a one-shot. My Tiger 2 can take care of him, not a problem. So I'm going to focus on the Smasher. He is the next very dangerous target, and he is solely focused on me, so I don't have to worry about him hitting my teammate. And I get a bounce again off the cupola, and my blind shot actually went through him. I do see the Borsig coming up on the side, so it's time for me to push forward, not get shot by him. I don't want to be in the crossfire. Now, my Tiger 2 does clear that tank finally. It took him a bit of time, but he got there. And he is now going to focus on the Borsig, which is the right move for him to do. I've completely ignored the Borsig. This tank is made to take the damage, and the Borsig misses his shot tragically there. I'm a giant target, I don't know how he missed, but he pays the price with his life, and he goes back to the garage. Get a nice shot into the tracks of the Smasher there, which allows me to pull back in this very slow tank and get myself behind cover without receiving another shot from him. Now I'm just going to wait for that Tiger 2 to catch up with me, which is right now, and we're going to push forward and we're going to deal to this Smasher. So in this match, guys, I mean, the whole team came to this side and we almost lost because of it. The mediums and the light tanks, they didn't turn around to deal with the mediums and the light tanks. No, they kept trying to fight the heavies face on, which is not what you want to do. I mean, it took me and that one medium who actually supported me, to go and deal with those light tanks, which would have just caused complete carnage against my team. But in the end, we pulled 3,626 damage with a Class 2 Mastery and 0 kills, which is perfectly fine by me. I was expecting a loss. Now the Tiger 2, he picks up 6 kills. Great teammate, great teamwork, and just showing you what this VK can do. I mean, I wasn't exactly front line there. I did pull back to the back lines, but that's what the match called for. Normally I would play this thing front and center the whole game if I can. It's what it's designed for. It's supposed to be front line. It's supposed to take the shots and the attention and do that sort of support for your team. And that's exactly what I'm going to do on this next match here in Yukon. Tier 8 match all across the board. There's not a tier 7 in here, there's not a tier 9, which is great. It's balanced. And we're going to have a great brawl. Now, I remember when Yukon first came out, everybody used to go out to the medium side almost religiously every single match. But since this map's been around for a while, people have realised and learnt how to play this middle section, and that is where most of the battles happen, which is absolutely amazing for a tank like this VK. When the battle takes place in this middle section, if you are in the right place, if you're paying attention, you can do some really good things in the middle of this map through these buildings near the cap. And you're going to see exactly what I mean here. I mean, my team plays very well. They do. They play very well indeed. But this is all about the VK. And it's not even about my gameplay. Anyone can do this in the VK. It doesn't take much skill. So long as you know how to side scrape and angle, you will do amazing things like get those snapshots into E75s and those kind of bounces. Now, I almost over-angled there. I actually think his shot went low and hit that lower skirt that I was telling you about at the start. But I mean, unfortunate. I pull back, I get a shot into the T28, it bounces off him because I don't have the pen to actually hit the front of his tank. Now, he does put a shot through my track wheel there, and that's exactly what I mean. But I'm going to load up an HE, we're going to try and get it through. Well, it kind of failed, but you know, that's the price you pay for taking a chance with HE. Now I'm going to go back to focusing this E75. I don't want to block my teammate here, but I do want to stop him from taking damage. So we pull forward, this E75 puts a shell through the cupola of my tank, and we're just going to pick up the kill behind him. We're not going to focus on him, he's not that much of an issue. And there you go, we get another bounce there. So we're on 871 at the moment with 620 damage. And we're just going to start looking for these shots. We pull forward and we see these tanks way back here trying to go across. Now, I do hit that 252U in the upper side, which means my shell bounces. But then I see my T32 here in a world of trouble against the Panther 2. So we're going to push up. He is not a good player. He's not paying attention to what's around him. He's not backing away from this guy. So we're going to stop this Panther from getting away, nudge our teammate out of the way, and just pull my big, giant, fat ass in front of him. Because That's how you keep your teammates alive. You've got to do these sorts of things in these super heavy tanks. And there you go, I take the shell from my teammate, the Panther 2 doesn't manage to clip him out, and we do pick up the kill. Which allows us now to push forward around into tanks like this E75, who was being a pain in the butt earlier. He's out of position, we managed to get a shot into him, we're not going to worry about him anymore because I'm on a reload. And we get a bounce from the VK, and in a second here you're going to see the armor profile on this thing. See, you've got that lower plate there, you've got the top hatch, and if you over angle, you've got that top half of the hull. So those are the areas that you've got to be wary of when you're driving this VK. But if you know what you're doing and you get lucky or angle correctly, you're going to bounce shells like I have done in this match. I mean, I've only blocked 1,000 in this match, but it's enough to have saved my hit points and my teammates' hit points. If I didn't block those 1,000, I would be dead. And we do manage to yoink that last kill. Just using a quick HE. It's got a big gun. If a tank's on low hit points, just fire a HE at him. There's no point in risking a bounce. We get 2,648 damage in that match with 3 kills and a class 1 mastery. So that's how you play the VK in a very central position. You can do those things. Now, great job to the Panther 2 there. He was definitely doing something right. I don't know what he was up to, but he'd done something right. And that's pretty much it for the VK. But we do have one last match, and it's going to surprise you what I'm going to do. Now, I just spent that last match talking about how this tank goes central and is best in that position. But again, it all comes down to what your team does, what the enemy team does, and your decisions about what to do in different situations. Now, on New Bay, what's the best thing for a heavy to do? Yes, that's right. You're going to push up to the heavy route, especially when the teams are heavy, like these two teams. We've got 4 enemy heavies on that team with 2 TDs and 1 medium tank. Same with ours, except instead of medium, we have a light tank, which is a T49 right there. And you can see we're all going that heavy route, which is basically how this match is going to go down. Now, I see my Tiger pulling off to the side here. He is actually platooned with that T49. And I'm going to go with him. I'm not going to let him go over here alone, because if that enemy medium or TD comes off the bridges or something, it can be very, very dangerous for a tank to be back here alone while the battle takes place at the other end of the map. Now, I'm going to pull up here. I'm going to hope that an enemy tank pulls out and tries to drive across, because that'll be a nice, easy side shot for me. But at this point, I realise this Tiger 2, he's just going to keep going forward. And as soon as he gets up to this corner, nobody's going to push out of that corner. Not a single person is going to push out of there. So I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to flank. I'm going to do the unexpected thing in this tank and flank. I'm in the position to do so. I mean, I could still have that medium come up on me, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. Now, I've seen the medium is now over there with all of their heavies. I am no longer afraid of this flank. Their entire team is in here. They are all boxed into one corner. And unfortunately, we don't get a shot on that VK, but we do notice this Centurion backing up, and we punish him with a 443 shot. Which, you know, that's kind of an average roll for this tank. It's not a high roll, it's not a low roll, but it is an average shot. Now, we do bait the shot out of the Centurion there, not that he was going to pin us anyway, and we punish him again with 527 damage. And we're just side-scraping off this building. Now, this is what I mean by keeping the tanks on the right-hand side of you. By side-scraping off a building like that and keeping that top cupola on the left, it is hidden behind hard cover, and they can't hit that weak point. Now, we can't quite get a shot into the back of that E75, and here's our T49. So we're going to snap into that waffle, who does punish us as well. But we've got a max roll loaded now, and I'm expecting this waffle to try and pop back out. Now, I want to side scrape off this dead tank, but the 49 keeps pulling in front, so that doesn't happen. Now, it doesn't look like this waffle is going to risk the peak again, so I'm just going to back up, turn my tank, and we're going to push up. I do have the support of this T49's dirt gun. That waffle is going to be in a world of pain if we hit him. Now, I didn't quite want to risk taking the shot there, when I can just pull around the corner while he's on a reload and do that to him with an HE shell. Now, I did hit him in the gun, but I still done over 600 damage. And here, with the side scraping, I'm not going to pull right up to this building. I'm going to wait for him to pull back to take a shot and then pull forward. And doing that in super heavy tanks, and this goes for tier 10 as well, giving yourself that little bit of space to move actually does throw off the enemy, because they're expecting to peek around the corner, take a shot at a stationary tank. But if you give yourself that space to move, you will get that space to move. Now, I'm not going to worry about this E75. I'm going to take out this nice juicy Falcon with an HE shell into the back of his tank. And I don't know how we bounce the E75 shell, but we do, and I'm not going to complain. So my entire team here just boxed these guys in. With the help of me and the T49 on the flank, the enemy had nowhere to go, and we pick up the kill on the E75. And just showcasing why this tank at tier 8 is an absolute beast. And it is very underrated. People look at the VK101P and they go, it's a trash tank, it's got too many weak points, it's so slow, it's got a long reload. Yeah, it's got a long reload because it's got a giant freaking gun. It does massive damage. Yeah, it's slow because it's got massive amounts of armor. And yeah, it does have a lot of weak points, but if you know how to use the armor profile on this tank, those weak points can be used to your advantage. As you just saw in those 3 matches, there were times where I made those weak points my advantage. Things like over-angling, and then at the last second before the enemy shoots, angling your tank back in so as they bounce off that side that they were aiming at, that they could hit. Things like waiting for them to be aiming at your cupola and then rocking back and forwards so as they hit the outside edges of it and bounce. There are so many things you can do with this tank. I don't know. I don't know. I've got nothing more to say on it. This thing is a beast. Thank you all for coming and watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, stay safe, use cover. Cheers.